Hi everybody, once again I'm Michael Feinstein and welcome back to the Great American Songbook Foundation Library and Archives, and it is a great joy for me to be able to share this segment with you, with Emily Rapoza, who is in charge of our archive. She is the director of the Library and Archives, and Emily is fairly recent to our organization and is such an incredible asset to all of us. Because of your experience and your library skills, you're able to take all of this precious memorabilia and make sure that it is properly preserved and conserved, because that's not what I do.
Sure.
So would you speak very briefly about that?
Absolutely. So part of my job is making sure that the wonderful items that we have here all have a safe home to continue living in. So it's everything from keeping it in an environmentally controlled area to housing them in specialty boxes and folders, but then also processing them so we know what lives where and what's in certain boxes so we can find them for researchers and displays and even anyone coming to visit the archives.
Wonderful. That was very succinct and perfect.
Thank you.
So
Thank
you're
you.
good.
So I want to bring you back to one of the initial collections that started everything.
Okay.
History lover here. So this is a couple of items from the Gus Kahn and the Donald Kahn collections. And they have been an absolute joy to get to look through and go through, not because they're just remarkable, which they are, but also because they are processed. And so people can look through them and actually see the exact items that we have. So
and find them online as well?
Absolutely. That's the ultimate goal, is to get everything up, but this collection, yes, definitely searchable online.
So Gus Kahn is one of the giants of American popular music, even though his name is not particularly well remembered today, except for aficionados of the Great American Songbook. And he wrote his first songs in around 1906, 1907, and wrote all the way until his death in 1941. But that didn't stop his career, because there were lots of posthumous things that he had written that were published after his passing, and the renewal of his popular songs. Songs like, for example, Makin Whoopee, which is a very well-known song written in 1928 for Eddie Cantor for a Broadway musical called Whoopee. And these pieces of memorabilia show, in some cases, the process that Gus went through, or have particular stories connected with them that I think are quite extraordinary. Well, I mentioned Gus Kahn's career beginning in the aughts of the 20th century. His first collaborator was a lady named Grace LeBoy. Grace LeBoy wrote a melody that Gus Kahn took a fancy to and wrote a lyric for, and it became published, and it was called I Wish I Had a Girl. Gee, I wish that I had a girl like the other fellas do. This all happened in Chicago, and Gus ended up marrying Grace, and many, many years later, in the early 1950s, their lives became the subject of a motion picture starring Doris Day and Danny Thomas called I'll See You in My Dreams. So it was a true storybook romance, that she was a composer and he was a lyricist, and they went on to write some wonderful songs together and with other collaborators. Well, the song I'll See You in My Dreams was a big hit in the early 1920s with music by a band leader named Isham Jones. And the inspiration for that song came to Gus when he was out and about somewhere, so he just had to write down the idea while he still had it, and he happened to be in some place where they were serving cocktails, and Emily has pulled this wonderful item, which is the cocktail napkin on which he wrote the original lyric for I'll See You in My Dreams, which was one of his biggest hits, evidenced by the fact that they gave the title of the motion picture that name. And also, it was the theme song for Tony Martin, whose collection we also have here. So it's all those connections. But it's quite amazing to think that this little cocktail napkin preserves that moment of inspiration, and that we still have it, and it is still in fairly decent condition because of the ability to conserve it and shepherded by you, Emily. So
absolutely. And it's wonderful to not only see his process, but then also to get to explain behind it the spark of inspiration that he would have had to just snag the cocktail napkin and jot it all down. And it's a little worn on some scrap of paper, and that's why it's so important that we do preserve it with special items and special folders and even special plastic to make sure nothing else happens to it. We preserve it exactly as it is.
Oh,
yeah. Exactly.
Right, we don't want to get any sneeze on that.
Right, right.
So what else have we got here? We've got
Sure.
Like many songwriters, Gus would keep ideas for songs because he was constantly under contract to write popular songs, to write scores for movies, to write for Broadway. And of course, for a movie, they say, we need a love song. Well, oh boy, I've got to come up with another idea for a love song. So he kept a file of lyrics and lyric ideas and titles. And you found this
title sheet.
A title sheet. These are just titles. And it says, and they have a check mark next to them. So I don't know if that means that he actually realized these titles or if he was checking it for some other purpose.
I know some were realized and others were played with maybe momentarily as a title and then swapped out for something a little more recognizable.
Let's Make a Short Story Long. That's a cute title.
Isn't it?
The Afternoon of a Flirt. I don't
so
think
if you need the inspiration.
Yeah, this is amazing. A toast to the moon. Well, the songwriter Jimmy McHugh used to drive to a certain part of Broadway where there were these guys who were down on their luck, and he would give them $5 for a song title. When he couldn't come up with a song title, that he would buy titles from these guys. But Gus clearly didn't need to buy titles from anyone.
Clearly not.
And this is a lyric that I don't believe was realized called
Correct.
I Want to Finish My Dream. He had good luck with songs with dream in it because he also wrote Dream a Little Dream of Me in 1931. Now this is interesting because this is an envelope and it says Ella Cortez, San Diego, California, so we know that he was probably at El Cortez or somewhere near there when he came up with this idea. I had a million dreams that never came true till I discovered you, and then I knew till the day I discovered you. So these are possible variables. So that's Gus's hand, and he would write it on whatever happened to come. And this must be very early in Gus's career because it says, what does it say on it? Compliments of Chicago Savings Bank and Trust Company. So he started his career in Chicago before he moved to New York and then to Hollywood. So that helps us to date it. And it's sadly come apart. But when you look at the even looking at the ink, you can tell that that's probably from a fountain pen as opposed to a ballpoint pen.
Absolutely.
To help date it. And these are, again, titles? Is that what these are?
Titles and little jottings of lyrics. It's kind of all over. I know there is a note somewhere in here reminding him to pick up dry cleaning. So you have a variety of different processes going on in Gus's mind.
I love it. The first thing listed here is, can I help you with the dishes? With all my heart. And this says, finish up, pucker up. Finish up, homesick. Homesick is a song that I know was published.
Right. So it's a variety. You get to see both ones that made it and are now very, very popular, as well as those that weren't quite up to his standard.
Yes. Now, this is a lyric that Gus wrote before his passing in 1941. And sometime after his passing, his son, Donald Kahn, who donated much of this material to us, wrote a tune for it. And so in 1997, so many years after Gus's passing, a new Gus Kahn song was created. I'd like to show a picture that you pulled of Donald.
Yes.
Because Donald Kahn, Gus's son, also had a number of popular songs to his credit, the most famous one being a song called This Is the End of a Beautiful Friendship. So this is a picture of Donald Kahn when he was probably in his late teens or early 20s, a long, long time ago. And this is a picture of Donald and his sister Irene with their father Gus, taken around, does it have a date? It doesn't, but they're little kids, so it's definitely from the 1920s. And Donald's sister Irene married the son of Groucho Marx, Arthur Marx. So it was a real show business family. And this is one other picture of Gus taken around 1931, just about the time he came to Hollywood and started writing for MGM.
And it's so wonderful to have those, not only with the music to help understand that, but also in the collection we do have letters from Santa Claus that Gus was writing to the kids. And so that's such a wonderful thing to really get the humanity behind it and understand, yes, they were big stars, and yes, they did all this, wonderful writing and composing, but they had family lives, and they had, funny jokes, and it is a stack of letters from Santa. So it's really such a wonderful collection to have, to relate all the music and everything and bring it to all of you today.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed our little visit with the legacy of Gus Kahn, and we invite you to check it out online and to check us out online, and to find out more about us, you can always go to thesongbook.org. And I'd like to thank you, Emily, for making this sheer pleasure.
Absolutely.
I'll see you in my dreams.
Sounds good.
Bye.